A whole documentary this morning?
We are.
I hope you're just practicing with your new rig.
No, it's actually working.
So today, as you'll see in the video, to enter the hovering maneuver, we use what I would call a pop-up. We came down the runway at a slower speed. Before we wanted to enter the hover, we gave a burst of throttle to get a lot of air going over the control surfaces. From there, pulled full elevator to swing the airplane up and get the tail underneath the airplane. From there, you're going to put small inputs on the aileron to keep the airplane flat in front of you. And you'll be using small inputs on the rudder and elevator to keep the tail centered underneath the airplane. If you start using too large of movements, you can swing the tail back and forth or forward and aft with the elevator and rudder and get out of shape very easily. So one of the keys to being smooth in the hover is small inputs on everything once you're in the hovering position. Now, one of the other questions you might have about when you're first starting to learn to hover and torque roll is, where should I do it? Should I do it up high? Should I do it down low? Well, up high gives you a little bit of an advantage for the fact that if you have some kind of failure, or if it's a failure of the thumbs and mind and learning, you can punch out, you're up high, you can fly away, it's not a big deal. But while the airplane is up high, it's a little bit harder to see, and sometimes you don't catch the little movements you need to put in. It is much easier to do it a little bit lower to the ground, head height maybe a little bit higher than that. It gives you a good sight on the airplane. It gives you a little bit of room to get out, and you're a little bit closer. If you do happen to hit the ground, you're a little bit lower. It's not going to be quite the amount of damage as if you're up high and you have some kind of failure and the airplane falls out or something. But start off a little bit higher and work yourself down to the ground. You can always back the airplane down a little bit using the throttle, and then if you need to, you can point the nose up and punch out and get out of there. Another way to enter a hover would be from a Harrier maneuver. We would want to start the maneuver a little bit higher off the ground and pull elevator to get your airplane in a high alpha flying position, Harrier style. And then as you would come into the hover, you would want to add more throttle and stay on the elevator until the tail swings underneath the airplane. And once again from there, small movements on the rudder, aileron, and elevator are going to keep you in the hover. You don't want to get too large of movements and swing the airplane around and push it around. It's always small movements to keep it in front of you and not to let it torque roll too much and to keep the tail underneath itself. Yep. Now, while you're in the hovering position, the ailerons is what's going to keep you from turning into a torque roll. If you don't use any ailerons, the plane will start to use the torque of the motor and roll on you. So while you're hovering, you will see in the video a lot of small reflexes of the aileron to keep the airplane flat towards you. If you were to hold constant aileron, the airplane would want to roll back the opposite direction on you. So you're going to use a lot of small movements and even a small hold sometimes of a little bit right aileron to keep the airplane from torque rolling on you. And most of the time you're going to want to keep the top of the wing facing you. And then once you feel more comfortable, you can let the airplane go ahead and roll around and do it with the belly facing you. When the belly faces you, your rudder inputs become backwards. That's one of the things you have to learn, and again, small movements will help you do this with ease. Okay, now sometimes while you're out hovering, you're going to find yourself at an attitude with the airplane that you're just not happy with, and you may get a little scared at first. The airplane may come back and the nose may point at you a little bit or go forward. Commonly, the airplane will swing right or left on you and get a little bit out of shape. Now, we all know that with these big, large aerobatic planes, we have a lot of power. So if you can get the nose up, pointed towards the sky, that's your best bet to just go ahead and punch the motor and get out. But sometimes that's really not the best option. So you need to be aware of that, and you need to be ready to fly out at any angle at any time. A lot of times if the airplane rocks over to your side, you can add a lot of rudder to the airplane and just fly out on a knife edge attitude. If that doesn't work out, sometimes if the airplane flops back on you, you would want to add a lot of elevator and try to fly out in a Harrier maneuver and then get the nose and punch out and get away. So while you're hovering, you need to be aware of the fact that things could go a little bit wrong at first, and you need to think about escape strategies. Remember, always best is to get the nose and go towards the sky, but be ready to fly out at any attitude, even if you have to push the airplane over and fly out flat away at a low level towards the ground, or away from the ground. And all the power we have, there's plenty of power to get out. I'm sorry, I can't do it.